Welcome to Crystal's Bread. Today we're gonna make our sourdough bread using our sourdough starter. I put the starter in the fridge and it's been sitting in the fridge for a few days. Fridge slows down the fermentation and growth of the starter. And you take it out from fridge and then let it sit on a room temperature depending on your room temperature. If it's warm, about an hour. If it's a little cooler, maybe more than an hour. And you take it out from the refrigerator and sit it down on a room. So I just want to show you how much I keep. About a cup of sourdough starter, I keep it in my fridge. And this is how it looks like when I put it in a glass jar. And I sit it down and hour for now. I need 320 grams of starter for my recipe. So I add 160 grams of water and 160 grams of flour. But as I mentioned in my previous tutorials, that if you're changing the ratio, adding a little bit of whole wheat flour, then you need a little more water, because the husk and the whole wheat flour will suck all the water and the starter will become harder. So if you want to balance the consistency, you just have to play around a little bit, adding a little bit of water and then less flour, and you just play around. So I added 180 grams of water, 50 grams of whole wheat flour, and 110 grams of white flour. So that's my starter. So I let it rise in the room temperature 8 to 12 hours to ready to make the bread. So I'm gonna add the salt. I'm gonna add the water. Then the whole wheat flour. And then white flour. And then you use a spatula first. Mix it very well. So now all the flour is gone into, so I'm going to bring it to the surface. Then I'm going to use my hand. Okay, when you're mixing the sourdough bread, the most important thing is you don't add flour, because eventually all the dough will keep on taking your flour in, and then your dough can turn hard. So if it's too sticky, 1 tablespoon flour at a time added. So this dough, even I use the total flour amount is less than what the recipe calls, because I put whole wheat flour. The husk will take all the water in. Now it's turning out. So different book says different time when it's ready. Really it depends on how fast you're gonna knead, how hard you're gonna knead. You're gonna use your palm to knead, and we're trying to build gluten. So once it turns elastic, then you can test window pan test. I will show you in a minute. So we're gonna be going for at least 10 minutes. So eventually it will turn into one big nice elastic ball. Don't be afraid adding flour if it's too sticky. It's better than having a little tough in the beginning, because eventually when you get used to it, then you can get softer, deal with the softer dough, because I don't want people discouraged because their hand is too sticky and they don't want to deal with the sticky dough. So you can add a little bit of flour and come to your comfortable texture. Eventually, if you want to make deal with the softer dough, you can. Now you can see it's coming together. We've been doing this for just a couple minutes now. How do I start? It's just you start from one corner, use your palm, and then just stretch it and keep bringing back and keep stretching it and bring it back, stretching it, bring it back, and use your palm. When it comes to gluten formed, it's going to be much easier. In the beginning it looks like this, a little bit sticky dough. All these are gluten in my hand. So you press it and bring this corner. Press it and bring this. Press it and bring it back. And press it. Now it's forming ball shape. I've been mixing this for at least 10 minutes or so. You can see that now it's turning one big elastic ball that it's resisting my hand. And the gluten is building up nicely. There's few ways to check. The one way is you press it, it will bounce back. So you can see it's bouncing back. And the other one is you cut little piece, then you can stretch it out. It's a window pane test, and then it should not break apart, and you should see and if you hold it against the light, it's coming out against the light. So that's how it's supposed to look like. So it's not breaking, it's still holding. So those are gluten.
1, 2, 3, go.
Now we're gonna bring this in a bowl shape, like that. And I already sprayed my bowl. I'm gonna put it inside. And make sure that it's all covered with the oil on all sides. I kind of like turn it around because there's oil sitting on the bottom. And then I use my knuckles, kind of press it down, so that way it's kind of starting with the flat surface. I can tell if it's rising or not. And then you kind of eyeball, you can put a marker, and then I'm just gonna cover it up and let it rise at least 3 hours in room temperature. It also depends on your room temperature. If it's cool, then it takes time to rise. If it's pretty warm room, it might take less than 3 hours, maybe 2 hours or so, it will rise up. So we're waiting for it rise up until here. We'll come back in 3 hours.